Okay, this is the third in my series on the installment of the solar panels, or solar power, I guess you might say, on the motorhome. That right there is the solar charge controller. On the previous motorhome, the Brougham, I used what is called a PWM, a pulse wave modulation type solar charge controller. And they do a good job, but they're not nearly as efficient as the MPPT, the maximum power point tracking type controllers. These will handle a much greater input voltage and are much more efficient. So that's the plan, is to get this thing installed right down here. This is where you put the two wires from the panel, your positive, your negative. I'll have two cables coming out of here going to the battery. These other two, I'm not going to be using those. That's just whenever your batteries are fully charged, you can dump excess power over there. Also, this one has, you can see the COM port here onto the far right. That will allow me to run a remote monitor inside the vehicle, so I don't have to come out here to see that my batteries are charging. So the plan is to mount this thing right here against the wall, and that way it'll be out of the way, and I should be able to run cables quite easily with very short runs on the cables. So that's it. I'm going to do that, get a couple of holes drilled to mount this thing in, and we'll get back in a bit. Okay, the solar charge controller is installed. It is working beautifully right now. So I did come in, and here's my wire right here that comes down from the panels. I just used some of those zip tie self-adhesive jobs, like that little gizmo right there, to secure all the wiring down. And probably a little hard to get in there and see the monitor with what all's going on. So I did purchase the external monitor, if I can get maybe out of the reflection I've got here going on. But anyway, it's giving me a good reading on everything with all my power settings. Hopefully that's showing up. So right now we're getting 60 volts from the panels, 2.8 amps from the panels at 60 volts. So when that is dropped down to 14.4 volts, it's going into my batteries. I'm at 11.3 amps right now, and you see the little far right icon over there, that's a heating element. It's dumping 0.2 of an amp right now. I just can't use that much because of where the batteries are and everything, I guess. But that's what it's showing, dumping to. And 11.3, and the only way I could get the 11.3 was I had to go inside the coach and turn on a bunch of stuff to actually start drawing down some power, because my batteries were pretty well topped off, and I was only getting about 1 amp or so out of the panels, and maybe 5 or 6 going into the batteries. So anyway, everything is looking good. It's all great. As I said, I went with the MPPT charge controller. That is the I think the best one that is out there for this application. One of the advantages over the PWM controllers is that you can work at a much higher voltage, and on running your wires you're not going to experience the line loss. And when your batteries are down low, it's probably going to do a little bit better job of getting them charged up. So it's just much more efficient all the way around. They do cost a little bit more than your PWM controllers, but I think in the long run it's going to be well worth it. The monitor here, I'm going to be running it. It looks like it's just a straight Cat5 cable, so I'll be running some cable from here out around the coach and inside, so I can monitor everything that's here. I've got to read the instructions on it. I'm probably certain that there's a way to set this thing up for the types of batteries you're using, and when you want it to start dumping and cutting in, cutting out, all that sort of stuff on the voltages. So I'll have to read up on that and see about programming it. But otherwise, this project, as far as just getting the panels in, the batteries installed, the inverter in, and this thing charging, So it's going to be pretty well self-sustaining right now with the amount of batteries that I've got and the amount of panels. So this thing should be quite good for a long time. My next project will be putting in the inverter. That's going to be the next one. So I'll have, like I said, a separate video on that one, getting the inverter installed. As I mentioned earlier, you can see up in there, that's where all the electrical cords are for shore power, running to the battery or running to the generator rather. And so what I'm going to do is the one that went to the generator, which is this one right here, that one I'm going to take the plug off because I put that plug on to go into the generator because I've got an external generator. And I will have, well, second thought, I'll probably leave that one on because I may need to use a generator from time to time. So I will probably go into the main box here and bring out some wires and go right up to the inverter. And that's going to go right into the main fuse box. So everything in the coach will be powered by the inverter. If I had enough inverter and batteries, I could probably run the air conditioner. There's 2 air conditioners on it, so I absolutely can't run both of them, but it'll be an interesting experiment to see if I can run one of them for a short period of time. Alright folks, that's it on getting the solar up, getting it running. Hopefully what you've seen from this is it's not rocket science. And I will put in one disclaimer. Probably someone's going to say, well, Dennis, you don't have a battery cutoff. Well, there isn't one right here, but there is one inside the coach. I hit a button in there and everything turns off. So I've got that. One for the engine battery as well as the coach batteries. So that is there. Anyway, that's it, folks. Hopefully you enjoyed this and maybe learned a little something. And if you like it, please subscribe. If you don't, well, I guess give me the thumbs down. Talk to you later.